Hello, and welcome to the Save Your Sanity podcast bonus live stream. Again, just because we're all hearing so much information, going in so many directions, hearing things that don't even match. People are out there fear mongering, scaremongering, getting you all riled up. And then how do you determine, should I be that afraid, or is there something I could do, or is there a middle point? So, my friend, Dr. Elizabeth Hughes, volunteered to
Mm,
come back and have a great chat. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy that you're here too, because today we're going to talk about self quarantine. And I don't know about you, Elizabeth, but I am like jaw droppingly aghast at the fact that Florida didn't close its beaches. And there is a whole bunch of people, young people, thinking that their fun is more important than the health of all the people they're going home to.
Oh, yes, that is that is worrisome and kind of shows that people aren't really getting how the virus can be transmitted. And I'll admit, not every little detail is known yet, but the coronavirus itself is just a cold virus. It's very similar to the other cold viruses, and all of us have probably had some other subtype of coronavirus in our lives because it causes about 30% of illness. And I guess it's the sort of thing where some common sense would, common sense is necessary the same way if you don't want to get a cold of any other type, just realizing that this one is more severe than usual.
Yes, and it is a little bit more severe in the fact that the morbidity rate for a cold is almost zero. But this
Right.
kind of cold is a little trickier. And then remember people around you. I think
Yes.
it's really important because there are things that we need to think about. We want to know what's real and what's happening that we need to pay attention to. We can't do things for many people around the world, but one of the things we can do is things for people around us. And that is to be the smartest, wisest, most thoughtful, and considerate humans that we can be for our own health and for the health of those people in our immediate family and those around us. I was just watching a program this afternoon, and an emergency room physician, he had quarantined himself in the self-contained basement apartment of his home, away from his children and wife, because he was still working and he felt it was essential to keep himself self-quarantined when he wasn't going to work. So we have an opportunity to look at this as exactly that. It's an opportunity to refocus, to self-reflect, to find out how important are we? What do we feel about community? How do we take care of our own selves? How thoughtful are we of other humans? I think it's important. And, I just was thinking about the fact that I made a graphic of this for Facebook, but self-quarantine from love, not from fear, from care about ourselves, and not from fear of getting sick, but of loving ourselves enough to stay safe. What do you say?
Oh, I could not agree more. I mean, we've talked about this before, but fear so directly affects your own immune system, your body's own ability to fight off the
Yeah.
virus, recover, that even if you're doing the right thing, but if it's coming from a place where you feel really afraid, it's you're still making yourself a little more vulnerable than you'd like than you want to be. So
Yeah.
the quarantine, like, the love should be part of your quarantine. Like, it's essential.
Well, self-care is loving,
Right.
right? And the thing is too that if we're giving energy, we only have a certain amount of energy. It's not like we can scoop up a whole lot more and put it into the machine somehow. Whatever we're doing for ourselves is giving us an amount of energy. How much of that energy do you want going to being worried about something? And how much of that energy would you like to have to use for healing, for staying safe, for focusing on what's good? You
Hmm.
know, I can't say that I feel at all unhappy about having to stay home.
Neither do I. I'm loving it, honestly.
But I make my living sitting in this chair, so I don't have the concerns of someone who makes their living by going out and then having that place they go out to shut down.
Hmm.
You know, so those are very real fears, and I understand that, don't want to underplay it at all. But for those of us who do stay home, must stay home, can stay home, and are best to stay home, then we want to be seeing that as an opportunity that our energy is going to promoting health, promoting family, promoting feeling taken care of, promoting our priorities,
Hmm.
and that our self quarantine then comes from care, not scare,
Right.
right? That, oh, well, I can make better meals. I can tidy that closet that I've always said I would do. I put up a list of things on Facebook. I'll just bring that up for a second here so that I can read it. And I asked people a question. I gave them some what ifs and suggested that they might want to think about things a little bit differently because it's so geez, I put so much on Facebook. I got to scroll through it all. But my suggestion was, what if you thought about things a little differently? And so what I actually said was, what if we relax? We don't give energy to fear. We are responsible and not in denial.
Mhm.
We focus on eating, sleeping, and exercising well at home. We take time to reach out to others via video conferencing or the phone to limit isolation because some people live alone and they don't have anybody who's going to drop by. We remember that this is all temporary.
That's
We
so important. Yes.
we shift our focus to all the wonderful things at home we've said we always wanted to do more of if only we had time.
Absolutely. Yes.
We stay focused on what we can do rather than what we can't do. And we remember that we are resourceful, responsive, and resilient, and completely in charge of where we turn our attention and our energy. So, all those things are on my Facebook page. If anybody wants to go there, it's facebook.com/relationship help doctor. And you can go there and see the kinds of things that I put. But if we're focused in that way, we're going to let our body stop producing fight and flight chemicals
Right.
and calm down a little bit.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, um, I will admit that I think that this self quarantine is much easier for introverts. And,
Oh,
and I'm an introvert, and it really is easy. But my son, who is in eighth grade, stuck at home, very social, very extroverted, he is actually finding ways through video to connect with his classmates, I think even more deeply. I mean, it might not be good that he's staring at a computer screen, but he's probably connecting with his entire class of friends uh, for more hours a day than he did while he was at school, to be
and
honest with
I
you.
I love that, and I think you're absolutely right. And I want to hone in on what you said, that he's connecting more deeply, because it's not "Hi, how you doing?" and "How was the test for you?" When you're actually face to face in a computer screen and there are no distractions, you actually have to get interested in the human.
Right. Well, and they're playing games together. I mean, again, computer games you don't necessarily want to, but they're getting online and playing like card games all together that they can't do at school. So it's
Love it.
kind of fun for him.
I love that. I think it's great.
And everybody's bringing their pets in, like, oh, here's my cat, here's my dog. Like, let's all show our pets off.
Wow, I love that. That's great. So let's just talk about this question. Is there actually a reason to be fearful? Should some people be fearful?
Well, I don't believe anybody should ever be fearful. I don't think that sort of base emotion of fear is helpful. I do think that there are some people who should be very cautious, and the people who should be very cautious are people with underlying medical conditions that make them more immune suppressed, more likely to have problems if they were to get a lung infection, people who care for people who are immune suppressed, otherwise chronically ill or have a lung condition. So it's not just you can be perfectly healthy, but you need to make sure that you're being responsible to the people around you. But it's not an idea of fear.
Right.
It's this is a great chance to show your responsibility and your care in a very real way, more than I guess the hi how are you that we all do. I mean, this is I'm going to, with my actions, make you do everything I can to make sure everyone stays well.
Well, you bring up a really good point, and it kind of came up around your son too. Is what is the actual meaning of the sentence we say so frequently? How are you?
Yeah, most of us are like it's almost just verbal chatter.
Yeah, it's just
It's throat
noise.
clearing.
It's
Yes.
the de rigueur greeting that, oh, you're supposed to say that, and you hear people say that passing in the hallway. Oh, hi, how are you? And they've gone on looking at their phone, long gone down the hallway. Even if you did answer them, they don't know what you said.
Mhm.
So maybe we're bringing attention to that question.
Well, yes, and I was on. So I said I am an introvert, but this week I have been on more calls with more people packing things in. And when we ask, "How are you?" we really mean, "How are you doing?" It's a very real question.
Well, I think it needs to be a real question all the time, because this is how you actually create relationship. I know, duh, but to
Right.
actually care about the answer to that question is not just a casual thing to say as the beginning of a greeting. It is an inquiry into caring. And then do listen to the answer, and particularly listen now with an open heart to say, okay, here's how you are. Is there something I can do for you? As opposed to, oh, does that mean I have to? That's that's a big shift. And so it's important for us to realize that. And as it says on the screen, always remember that fear will affect your physiology. It will affect your body. It will put you into that flight or fight place, and that puts your body on alert. You need your body to be at rest.
Hmm.
I fall into that category of people. I actually take medication that suppresses my immune system. And so what I know about that is that I have to rest, and here's why I have to rest, and I'd love to hear your take on it, is that I feel that at the moment that I recognize that my body is fighting something, I rest so that my body is doing nothing but garnering up its own immune system and saying, you're not going to keep me down. I'm going to get this one. And I
Right.
just lie there, right?
Well, so I believe that we have a war on sleep. Like there is a war
Oh,
out there on sleep, and that sleep is almost vilified. Rest is unacceptable in many ways. And I think that we should be taking rest very seriously, much more seriously than we do. And this is a great opportunity, no matter what's going on. If you are not feeling well, there's you should rest. Uh, now's a good time. I would love to be able to say that now is a great time to establish some habits that will work for you for the years to come, even though this is going to be done in a few months.
well, I love that. I love that because I believe that. It's almost our culture, even magazines, online, magazines, everybody is saying, be more, do more, have more, repeat, right?
Yes, yes.
And
Drink this so you can stay awake and have lungs and
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
yes, you'll never need to sleep. I mean, what body needs that? And the actual fact is yours. Your
Yes.
body needs that. Sleep is restorative. It's the time when all of this allows all of this to restore. And it's
Absolutely.
so important, like little things. We don't realize how much energy seeing takes up.
Oh, yeah.
Your eyes take up an enormous amount of energy. So when they're closed, that energy can go other places.
Oh, well, but I'll say it to everyone else. Something on the order of 70 to 80% of our resting metabolic rate, well, maybe it's something like that, goes to our brain, just to run our brain. The rest of us, um, gets by on very little. So we need to rest our brain sometimes so the body gets its fair share of our blood supply.
Well, that makes absolute sense, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh, definitely.
So I'm going to put that up that
Okay.
way here.
Yes, that's great.
Right. That if we don't understand that, it's not whoever dies most sleep deprived wins.
Yeah, yes, I like that.
Well, we almost have a culture that suggests that that's a good thing, like you were saying, and ask yourself, everybody, are you running on that basic underlying idea that somehow you're a better human if you don't sleep? Like if you can make it through, or the boss says come in for an extra day or extra early, and they do it again and again and again, and you say, I don't think I can. And then somehow it's like 4 Red Bulls and you make it anyway.
Yes,
What's up with that?
right,
It's important for us. Like we're talking about self quarantine. What a great time to sleep.
right.
You might
Absolutely.
find that you're actually tired if you don't have anywhere to go.
Absolutely. And again, sort of bringing in another thing that we overlook is the idea of just some creativity that most of us have very linear, logical oriented, task focused jobs. So you earlier, Roberta, mentioned now's the time to do some of those things that you say you do if you had the time, whether it's picking up knitting or you're just going to draw or something that you enjoy that's creative that uses another part of your brain for a little
Yeah,
while. Let that get some exercise too.
absolutely. Like it may be something as simple as people who say, "Oh yeah, I've got 5 books on my nightstand," but
Yes.
who can do it? You can
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
You,
don't, and there's again, and I'm an introverted bookworm, so the idea of just resting on a couch with a book and a cup of tea is perfect. But I think I would guess a lot of people would say that might be really nice to do that for a couple days. That would be great.
well, introvert or extrovert, at some point you need to have your energy rebuilt, and being quiet allows that to happen as well. I mean, even better if you're sleeping, but if you're still,
Mhm.
meditate, sit quietly, read a book, do some handwork of some kind. As you were saying earlier, use a different part of your brain. If you're not artistic, get one of those coloring books. One of my friends said to me the other day, I don't know where I'd be without my swear color books. And I said, what? And she said, yeah, I have 2 coloring books that are just swear words made into things, and I color them when I'm frustrated.
I love it. I also, I don't know if this might not be an easy thing, but get some Play-Doh. Like Play-Doh's great.
Yeah.
It just
Or make bread, do
yes,
that.
yes, yes, yes. That's great.
Yeah, so let me
And you
hear
get the
my.
bread.
Exactly. And you don't have to wonder if they're out of it at the store.
Right.
Right? Get the kids making bread. Make a few loaves, put it in the freezer. Now we're coming back to the way of actually providing for ourselves. So, as Dr. Elizabeth said, we need to rest our brains so our body can get some love. Those are my words about how she said it. But the actual thing is get more sleep. And if you tune into your body and you just fall silent for a minute, let your shoulders come down from your earlobes, maybe take a couple deep breaths and then say, "Am I tired?" And your body may go, "No, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be." Your mind will tell me, good people don't get tired. But go back and just do it again and say, "Am I tired?" And you know what? I bet 40 to 50% of people got a little teary right at that minute.
Yeah.
Because when you allow yourself to recognize, I'm tired, I may be physically tired, I may be emotionally tired, I may be mentally exhausted, I may be so fearful that my body has had my shoulders up by my earlobes for 2 weeks, wondering what's going to happen.
Hmm.
And so get in touch with if you're tired. Now is the time to deal with that. So very important because you said something really wonderful the last time we talked. And be the CEO of your own health. And now you have a little bit extra time to focus on it because your attention's been drawn directly there. So be that CEO. Say some more about that, Elizabeth.
Well, this is the idea that a CEO doesn't just necessarily do what a person tells them to do, whether it's a doctor or a parent or friends or something. A CEO weighs options, looks around at what's available, and really listens to her own guidance about what is supposed to be happening, because only the CEO of a company or the founder of a company is going to have the big vision. So for your health, your big vision of your health and making sure that what you're doing makes gets you on that path and gets you going toward that goal.
Okay, I have a big question for you because I think this is top of mind right now.
Yes.
There are people who are right now saying, "Oh, I don't know if I should get a test. I don't know if I should bother anyone. I don't, I probably just have a cold." They're going through all of this sitting at home because they don't want to be a bother. They don't want to drain
Oh.
on the system. And then there are the people, like someone said in one of my groups just an hour ago, she said, "I'd like to get a test, but there aren't any available." She lives in Washington, D.C. She said, "I think it's only for basketball players in Congress." Right?
So in the midst of all of this, my sister-in-law and her nephew and my nephew, my sister-in-law's son, actually have influenza A.
Yeah.
They did get tested. So it is important if you are ill that you do see a doctor, because it's still flu season. People get other things. So don't think ever you're being a burden. You might not have coronavirus. In fact, chances are good you won't have coronavirus because flu is still out there. It's very, very active right now, and there's treatment. You can have other things. You can have allergies. You can have a pneumonia that can be treated. It's not a burden. What would be, and this is really true, people with multiple co-infections, if you get influenza and coronavirus, if you have a pneumonia already and the coronavirus, that's really going to do a number on your lungs. So get what's treatable treated. That's.
Okay, so let me go back to something you said because I'm sure 14 people just perked up. You said go and get treated. Now, aren't there some steps? Like, should we phone somebody
Yes,
first?
that
Yeah.
that is a good point. So yes, so you'll want to phone your doctor, find out what they have. I know my doctor is seeing people in cars, coming out to cars to look at people and figure out whether or not they need to, come in and be tested. There are some things they can do to pre-screen either over the phone without walking into a building, but never ever. I mean, part of self-care is love. So you have to love yourself enough to get the help you need. Right? Because if you love yourself, you're never a burden to you.
Oh, well, I've got to write that down.
Okay.
If you love yourself, you're never a burden to you. Mm. There she goes again.
Well, and I think about, I love my dogs and they're, I do pretty much anything for my dogs and it never feels like a burden. And they just, because they love me, I love them back. So same thing with my kids. So
Well, it is, and I'll piggyback on that one. Many times people say, "Oh, well, I don't want to ask anybody," and I say, "Well, what if somebody asked you for help?" "Oh, I'd be there in a heartbeat." I
right.
said, "Well, why doesn't it work both ways?" "Well, I don't want to be a burden, but you'll happily help someone." And I explain it this way. Think about the fact that when somebody asks you for help, they actually have faith that you are a person who could help them. They are speaking to your strength. They are saying, I think you have what I need. That is the help that I require. And so you respond to that by saying, of course. I mean, only people with no empathy and no interest in other humans will not perk up when the word help is said,
Right.
right? Like, if I can, of course I'll help you. That's the feeling of most people, you
Oh,
know.
yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely.
And let's never forget that. We may have been raised, and I wanted to bring this in earlier, and maybe this is a good time because toxic relationships provide chronic anxiety and stress. And if you were raised in a toxic relationship, a toxic household, or had a toxic parent, you may never have been validated for when you're ill because you don't you don't make that hijackal parent. That's my name for toxic people. A hijackal, a toxic parent, is only interested in their child validating them by making them look good, and a sick kid doesn't do that. The only time that you'll ever get validation is if you get really ill and they can swoop in and make a video for St. Jude's, right? And
Right.
then the hijackal says, "Oh, well, look at me. The whole world thinks I'm a wonderful person." Meanwhile, the wife is, or her husband, whomever, is in the back corner going, "No, that's not how that." So it's very important for us to know that if you're living in a toxic relationship, you already are living in chronic stress and anxiety. So that's one of the things that, that's what I talk about on Save Your Sanity, help for toxic relationships. And this week there will be a new episode tomorrow, and that you'll be able to find it wherever you like to go. You can go on my website at Transforming Relationship, and it's going to be about things like quarantine. There'll be a few episodes quarantined. Um, what are the things you need to remember about surviving with a hijackal if they're home with you? Things like that to remember to lower the anxiety and stress because you don't want to increase that in any way. So let's talk about this. What's essential to staying healthy? Let's focus on the things that are top to do right now.
So, well, rest we've talked about. Just rest, relax, restore, refresh. Don't think of it as weakness. Think of it as you fueling yourself up. You're giving yourself a tune up the way you tune up a Formula One car between races, something like that. If you want to, is and I believe that laughter is essential. I mean, there's so much about what laughter does for the immune system. And you can laugh on your own, read a funny book, watch a funny film. You can laugh with other people. Laughter is a great stress dissolver, a great immune booster.
Okay, so let me ask a question about that.
Yeah.
Does shadow laughter count?
Meaning like,
When you're laughing at the dark side, like, oh yeah, that's really true.
yeah, that sort of like gallows humor. I don't know
Right.
that that counts so much.
Okay.
And you know what I find very interesting is there's lots and lots of work in pediatric hospitals and the pediatric literature about laughter for children and how it decreases anxiety in the ER and how it
Mm.
improves the immune system for kids going through cancer and all these things. And all of a sudden, when you're 18, that stops. What? Like, what? Like this is just this logical gap that goes away. So genuine, humorous belly laugh. So is what you want, is to really laugh with all of you.
Yeah, well, back in the 90s, I used to own a health retreat, a yoga and holistic health retreat where I had my private practice. And there was so much, Dr. Norman Cousins did a
Yes,
lot
exactly. Yeah,
about that and how it plays with our immune system and supports and strengthens it, and how that will shift your thinking as well. And watch old movies, watch the ones that are slapstick. Anything that will give you a belly laugh is a really good thing to do at any time. But
right.
if you're home alone and you're not so alone, you're home but you're not so alone and there's tension building, find something to do that will make everybody laugh. Have a wrestling contest, a pillow fight, a tickle contest, depending on the age of your kids. Allow yourselves to laugh, and again, you may find you laugh and you start crying because you didn't know how much tension you were under. And these
Right.
are things to take note of. Just like I was saying earlier, if you check in with yourself and say, am I tired? You can get teary about that quite quickly because you didn't want to be tired. You didn't want to admit you were tired. And maybe you don't want to admit you're stressed. And
Right.
you are. I there is stress in the world. Back in 1900, there was a reason that we only needed a wagon and a horse and somebody pulling on a little string to ring a bell for a fire engine, and everybody would come running. We now live in places that are so noisy and so stimulated and overstimulated that we've got fire trucks that have variable sirens and multicolored ringing and honking and everything to try and get our attention. That means that we're always in a little bit of an elevated position around stress where we weren't before.
Yes.
And so then we're already living that way. And then we get something like this supposed global pandemic, which does seem to be very, very real and very global. And that's what pan means everywhere.
Right. Right.
So kind of redundant. But anyway, it get the message across. And we're part of it.
Hmm.
When you stop and think, like today I was going outside to take something to the garbage can. And I thought, I wonder if people have thought this through, that you can go for a walk. It's not in the air. There's not some horrible gas out there. You can go out and go for a
Absolutely.
walk. You can be in nature. Last night I was thinking, oh yeah, I could get in my car and go for a drive by the ocean. I could do all kinds of things. Let's not get into some kind of cage that says can't do anything.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I live in Seattle and spring has come for right now. This might be it. And then it might go
This
again
day, yeah.
today. Yeah, today it's spring. Um, but I've been out for 2 walks already today. I live near a park and it's marvelous and just it is kind of interesting that I'm seeing more people out in the middle of the day than usual, and everybody's very friendly, and you don't have to run up and hug everyone. Like we never,
Better not.
better, but that's not what you do anyway. So get some exercise, get some fresh air, get some. Yes, I'm a dermatologist telling you to get a little sun, little sun. It's useful.
Well, yes, I think there's wisdom in getting out in the sun and, getting sunlight in your eyes and
Right.
getting, things like that so you can make
And
your own
getting
vitamin
some
D.
large muscle movements going, and
And breathing a little bit better because you're walking a little faster.
Mhm.
Yeah, all those things are really good and they're absolutely available to you right now. So you're not housebound when you're self quarantined. You're
Right.
self quarantining from other humans being close to you. And the
Right.
ones that you're related to, you're in it together. so
Right. Right.
so important to know. So one of the things that people have been mentioning to me in my groups, and anybody who wants to be part of those groups can find me on Facebook, but is that the mixed messages they're getting. Like there are scare tactics.
Oh,
There
yes.
are, there are photos of these people having spring break and looking like they're enjoying themselves. Then there are the people who are screaming because they can't go to bars anymore, and that's not fair. And then there are people who are cheering that you can't go to bars anymore because you won't be bringing home any bugs. So, where do we look for reliable sources in your estimation?
So I would probably say that the CDC information, the NIH, is going to give you the the Center for Disease Control and the National Institutes of Health are going to give you the best, least biased information that's available at the moment. I don't know about overseas or Canada, so sorry about that. I haven't been looking at those areas. Um, I will just interject about some of the fear and some of the craziness. I am actually a little bit angry at newspaper journalists and all about, the economy's tanking and this is going to sink things. I actually believe, and this is the creative part of your brain, that there are ways that this experience may transform many people's work habits and lives. And this might be an amazing opportunity for you to take what you do and be able to get whatever wonderful thing it is that you do out there in a different way. So I'm often reminded of the fact that the stock market crash in 1929 really was based on which stocks were in the Dow Jones Industrial Average at the time. And if it had been a different group of stocks, the dip wouldn't have been so severe.
Mm.
And I think the same thing that may be happening here is that there's a little bit of bias towards thinking that this is an overwhelming problem where it could be an opportunity in many ways. So get some rest. Your brain will think more clearly. You'll be more healthy. Use a little creativity, even if it's punching clay or drawing, and ideas are going to come to you. That's what I believe. And I've seen it in people that I've been working with, that they're getting creative in a fun way. And you might end up getting something that from this whole experience that you use that's beneficial in the rest of your life.
I love that, and I second that. And I also would draw our attention to the fact that we're getting a pretty quick lesson when we look at maps that say coronavirus shut down this section of China, and you see the maps from space, and now the pollution is dispersed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then you look at the photos of Venice canals, and now they have dolphins and swans in them, and you can see the color of the water.
It
Like,
doesn't take any time.
okay, that was pretty darn quick, folks.
Right.
Like, let's grab a clue here that this is in our control.
Hmm.
And maybe the coronavirus is something we've got to go through in order to have that global wake up call to say, oh, we can do something about pollution and we can do something about wildlife and we can do something that allows us to reduce the risk of climate change factors. We're powerful. Look what we did when we had enlightened self interest and all took ourselves inside for a little while.
Right.
You know, let's have enlightened self interest and keep the planet so everybody can draw breath for a long, long time.
Right. Yeah.
So very important. And I'm sure that we'll talk again before this is all seen its way through, Elizabeth.
But it's not going to be long. That's the other thing is this, you just look at the numbers from China and it's already on the way down. And yes, it was devastating, but it's also overcomable.
That's right. Today there was notification that they closed their last dedicated coronavirus hospital.
Right.
So if you want to learn more about Dr. Elizabeth Hughes, go to elizabethhughesmd.com. And if you'd like to come to my podcast that I have talked about so much, you can certainly find it there at Save Your Sanity Podcast. And if you'd like to find me, you can go to my website at transformingrelationship.com. You'll find the podcast there and my YouTube channel for relationship help. I hope you enjoy our Facebook Lives. Make sure that you take a moment if you have questions to put them into the spaces below this video. We will check back. We will answer them. If you weren't with us live, you can still ask your questions, so please do that. If you're watching it on YouTube, do the same thing. Put your comments in. We'll get back to you. And take really good care of yourself. I hope you learned something today that allows you to say yes to that and take care of others to the best of your ability. Thanks, Elizabeth.
You're welcome, Roberta.